name is Pete Sanders. I'm the president and founder of Free Soul Mind-Body Education of Sedona, Arizona. I am a veteran. I did voluntary service for 5 years as a Navy enlisted man and as a naval officer. My own background's fairly scientific. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I'm an honors graduate of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where my principal studies were biomedical chemistry and brain science. I was accepted to Harvard Med School, turned it down to found my International Mind-Body Association. I love medicine. I was the voluntary service medical trainer for my sons, all 6 of their high school sports. I just made that decision at the time I was graduating because I was very distressed at what was available to the public in the whole mind-body field. It seemed that if you wanted to learn about meditation techniques or mind-body healing, you either had to pay a fortune for stuff that was more commercialism than public ed, or there was a lot of pressure for people to leave their religion, to leave their faith, to be a devotee of a guru, just to learn a little bit about mind-body. And that didn't seem right to me. I felt the public deserved something that was based on science, was as financially reasonable as possible, and first, last, always, where the focus was, how can you be your own best teacher in this field? I have a son who is an Annapolis grad and a currently serving Navy SEAL officer in Afghanistan. My older boy is an engineer who works with cervical and spinal surgery products. He loves marketing, and so he goes, "Dad, you got a really stupid business model." Kids are so supportive, you know. He goes, "That help people be their own best teachers, that's financially ruinous. Is that why we had to buy our own cars as teenagers?" And I said, "No, we would have done that anyway." But I'm mentioning that because I want you to look for that in the program today. This isn't just going to be about a nice, uplifting morning. You're going to walk out that door knowing a system, techniques you can use for the rest of your life for changing your life. Imagine being able to soothe any worry, hurt, anger, or fear in seconds without alcohol, nicotine, drugs, or overeating. That's what we're going to cover today. And I believe that what you're going to learn today should be taught to every kid before they hit 13. And I do my part for that. Like I said, my wife is a teacher, a K-8 teacher, so 7th and 8th have the health class together, and every 2 years I volunteer in her school, and I teach some of what I'm teaching to the kids. And here's how I reach them. I look right at them and I go, "I know you think I'm an old fart with all this gray hair, but here's what we have in common. I hate being told what to do, and I hate paying for something I can get for free. Here's the part of the brain that if you let it, tells you to feel miserable during your teenage years. This limbic system of the brain. The limbic system is what's in the darker lower loops. These 2 upper loops, they're actually part of the olfactory system, which is why aromatherapy does work negatively and positively. A lot of vets, a lot of PTSD sufferers, a smell, and a seemingly innocuous smell, can put them back in a PTSD trauma. Smell is one of the only senses that is wired to both your conscious and unconscious mind. That's important, because when you have something that's dual wired, you can counter the negatives with positives. So yes, you may be vulnerable to a smell triggering a PTSD memory, but you can also use a smell to trigger a soothing. If there's an essential oil that represents calmness for you. One of my most gratifying experiences was when I was teaching this program at the West Los Angeles VA home. There was a Vietnam-era SEAL who came up to me and tragically said, "This is the first thing I've actually learned how to do to help me with my PTSD since I got out of Nam." And that was tragic. And I said, well, there must have been something. And he said, well, I do want to give credit to one of the great caseworkers, one of the therapists who was very intuitive. And he was very low-key. He didn't want people to know he was a SEAL, but she did. And he was having a full-blown PTSD-triggered panic attack. The heart racing, they were going to take him to the hospital for a heart attack. And he knew it wasn't that, but he didn't know how to get out of it. And she knew enough from his background. He was one of those SEALs that loved the water stuff. And she said, Ron, go to your safe place. Get into the water. Now, they couldn't get to the ocean, but he could remember being underwater scubaing. And he could remember the smell of the salt spray. And you know, SEALs in many ways get to the ocean, is safe for them. And so just remembering the smell and then the visual helped him to self-soothe. Do you understand? Yeah. So, big problem with PTSD is feeling out of control. And, you know, we're not just about PTSD. We hope at some point this videotape that's being done for free, pro bono, by a wonderful videographer whose credits are at the end. You can, you know, thank her for her time. We hope it'll eventually to active duty military, to dependents. I mean, one of the most, talk about helpless, the people at home who have loved ones they want to, if they could cut off their arm to help their loved one, they could, but they can't. And nowadays, everybody tends to say, oh, it's so much easier for the loved ones because there's email and there's Skype. And one of my instructors loves opera. And she said, it must be wonderful for you that you can talk to your son in Afghanistan. And I said, well, let me give you an idea what it's like. Imagine if your daughter called you and she said, I heard this great new opera, but I can't tell you what city I heard it in, what the opera was, who the conductor was, who was playing, what instruments, or who was in the audience. And so a lot of times the calls can be as equally frustrating as fulfilling. So these techniques will help all of that military family. Those of you who are caseworkers working with vets or active duty military, I'm not going to try and tell you how to do your profession. You know your profession better than I do. I do know these techniques. And so I'm going to try and say, if I were teaching them to vets or dependents or active duty military, what would some of the approaches I would take be? If there are approaches that work for you, fine. But as far as the current serving and the vets, one of the approaches is you deserve the best. And why is that a problem? Because a lot of times the military and their families are people who don't like asking for help. They've been trained to be self-sufficient, army of one, you know. And what I say to them is, this isn't about help. This is about you deserve the best. When you go into combat, you deserve the best weapon. You deserve the best body armor. And I'm still working on humility a little bit, but this is the best mind-body training anywhere. I'm an MIT honors graduate. I field tested this around the world. My book on this is now going in its 5th foreign language. There is nothing better out there because not only is this brain science that works, that's been kept from society, but raising 2 active boys, you know, a lot of meditation stuff is wonderful, but it takes too long. The best meditation technique, if it takes too long, becomes instantly worthless because you don't use it. You know, meditating twice a day, 20, 30 minutes is wonderful. It's tremendously relaxing, but I raised 2 active boys and I was lucky if they gave me 20 minutes of peace twice a decade, let alone twice a year. And particularly speaking to dependents out there, when your spouse, your military member is away, you have even less time because you're doing the stuff that's supposed to be shared with one person and dealing with the extra trauma because the kids are upset that the parent's away. So that's the other beautiful thing about this. Everything you're going to learn today, when you get good at it, you can trigger in 20 to 30 seconds, not 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 3 seconds when you get good at it. So let's start right off the bat. Just general stress makes everything worse. You all know the negative health effects of stress, but any kind of stress also worsens PTSD, things on the home front, all of that. One of the other things for vets in particular is vets aren't looking for a handout or for sympathy. They're looking for a purpose, a meaning, to feel valuable. And anyone who's here who's a vet or seeing this, you are now a part. I am commissioning you to be part of the research team refining these techniques for helping the thousands of vets we're going to have from our current conflicts coming back needing them. And I don't know everything there is to know about this. This is a real forefront world. So that's why we all have to be pioneering together. Now, another approach to take with your vets, or active duty in particular, is clean your weapon. You don't have to clean your gun every time you shoot it, but if you never clean your weapon, it is eventually going to jam on you and backfire and cause problems. Well, your state of mind is your ultimate weapon. Why should you do mind-body techniques? Because that is your ultimate weapon, not just in the military, but in life. And if we're running around with high stress levels, it's literally gunking up our most effective piece of equipment.